a man known for his good humor and joy. He dedicated his days to helping others. Today's curiosities are about Saint Philip Neri. Here are 12 facts about him. 12. Birth. Saint Philip Neri was born on July 21, 1515, in Florence, Italy. He came from a family of merchants, but from a young age, he showed a deep inclination toward spiritual life. His childhood and youth were marked by a sincere devotion to God, which only intensified as the years passed. Even though he was surrounded by the rich culture and nobility of Florence, Philip chose a path of simplicity and humility, which later led him to renounce a family inheritance in order to dedicate his life to serving God and the poor in Rome. His birth in such a prosperous and culturally vibrant city influenced his worldview and his mission as a saint, combining deep spirituality with an approachable and charismatic personality. If you're not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now so you don't miss any curiosities about the saints. 11. The Saint of Joy. Saint Philip Neri is widely recognized as the Saint of Joy, a title that reflects his unique approach to spiritual life. From a young age, he displayed a contagious sense of humor, believing that joy was essential for strengthening the human spirit. For him, being Christian didn't mean living in constant sadness or under heavy burdens, but rather finding lightness and happiness even in the most difficult situations. Philip believed that a joyful temperament not only strengthened the heart but also helped people draw closer to God. He saw joy as a divine gift that made the path to holiness more accessible and less burdensome. He often said that good humor was more Christian than a sad expression, encouraging his followers to cultivate lightness and laughter. This view didn't mean he didn't take faith seriously, but rather that true spirituality didn't require a gloomy attitude. On the contrary, Philip believed that laughter and joy could be profound expressions of trust in God. His legacy teaches us that faith and joy are not only compatible but that they walk hand in hand to strengthen the spirit and bring us closer to the divine. 10. Mystical experience. In 1544, Saint Philip Neri had one of the most extraordinary experiences of his spiritual life during the Pentecost Vigil. He was graced with a deeply impactful mystical vision. According to reports, Philip saw a ball of fire descending from the sky and entering his mouth. This phenomenon, more than just a simple vision, had miraculous physical effects on his body. After this experience, Philip Neri's heart began to expand supernaturally. The impact was so intense that 2 of his ribs were displaced to accommodate the growth of his heart. This event was interpreted as a sign of divine presence, symbolizing the immense love of God for him and his spiritual mission. Despite the miraculous expansion of his heart, Philip lived the rest of his life without experiencing any significant pain or discomfort. On the contrary, this experience seemed to intensify his joy and his capacity to love others, reflecting even more clearly his commitment to serving God and others. This event was seen as a confirmation of his holiness and his deep union with the Holy Spirit, marking a crucial point in his religious life. Leave your prayer request in the comments so that Saint Philip Neri may intercede for you before God. 9. Escape from wealth. At the age of 18, Saint Philip Neri made a decision that would change the course of his life. He refused the considerable inheritance he had received from his wealthy uncle. Instead of opting for a life of comfort and financial security, Philip chose to follow a path of simplicity and holiness. This choice was a turning point in his spiritual journey. With the desire to dedicate himself entirely to God, he decided to go to Rome, where he could live modestly and focus on spiritual growth. His rejection of earthly riches reflected his understanding that true happiness and fulfillment do not come from material possessions but from a life of service to God and others. Philip Neri lived in extreme simplicity, trusting in divine providence to meet his needs. This humble life, free from luxuries, helped him develop a deep empathy for the poor and needy, making him a great example of charity and detachment from the material world. This attitude of fleeing from wealth also brought him closer to the model of Christ's life, strengthening his religious vocation and preparing him for the great spiritual impact he would have in Rome. 8. Founder of the Oratory. With his passion for spirituality and service to others, Saint Philip Neri founded the Congregation of the Oratory in the 16th century in Rome. The congregation was born from his vision of creating a religious community that, without the formal vows of other orders, would be dedicated to prayer, teaching, and service to the poor. The oratory was a space where people could gather for spiritual activities. Philip organized talks that addressed themes of faith, catechism, and Christian morality, always with an accessible and joyful approach, which marked his apostolate. He believed that study and the sharing of knowledge were essential for spiritual growth. In addition to the talks, Saint Philip promoted pilgrimage walks, leading groups to visit churches and sacred sites in Rome. These pilgrimages were not only moments of devotion but also occasions for reflection, fraternity, and fun. Philip combined humor and joy with spiritual depth, making the experience both light and edifying. The congregation of the Oratory stood out for its simplicity and the freedom of its members. The Oratory priests did not take vows, but they lived in community and dedicated themselves to helping the poor and providing spiritual guidance. To this day, this community remains active in various parts of the world, following the ideals of prayer, teaching, and service established by Saint Philip Neri. 7. Humor in confessions. Saint Philip Neri was known for his unique approach to confessions, where he used humor to guide the faithful toward a deep reflection on their mistakes and sins. He believed that joy and good humor were effective tools to touch hearts and promote conversion. One of the most famous examples of his method involved a woman who had the habit of gossiping. During confession, after hearing about her tendency to speak ill of others, Philip gave her a curious penance. He asked her to scatter feathers from a pillow throughout the city. After the woman had done this, he asked her to collect all the feathers. When she returned, she reported that she couldn't gather all the feathers because many had already been carried away by the wind. At that moment, Philip explained that gossip works the same way. Once spread, it's impossible to completely undo its effects. This type of creative and humorous penance not only left people surprised but made them think deeply about the consequences of their actions. Instead of harsh reprimands, Philip used laughter and lightness to provoke spiritual awareness, always guiding his penitents toward more loving and responsible behavior toward others. 6. Silent reform. Saint Philip Neri took a unique approach during the Reformation period, opting to reform the Church from within rather than breaking away from it as Martin Luther did. He firmly believed in the importance of remaining obedient to the Pope and ecclesiastical authorities, seeing internal reform as a way to revitalize the spirituality of the clergy and the faithful. This so-called silent reform was marked by Philip's deep commitment to spiritual renewal, simplicity, and joy in faith. He promoted practices such as prayer, regular confession, and charity as the pillars of Christian life, influencing both lay people and priests to seek greater authenticity in their faith and service. By founding the Oratory, Philip also helped reform religious life without the need for rupture, proposing a communal life centered on prayer and accessible spirituality. His loyalty to the Church and the Pope, combined with his innovative approach, made him a key figure in the Catholic Counter-Reformation, showing that profound changes could be made within the traditional structure of the Church. 5. Miracles. Saint Philip Neri was known for numerous spiritual gifts and extraordinary miracles. Among them were the healings he performed, often through the simple laying on of hands or his fervent prayers. Several reports mention that he healed both physical and spiritual ailments, being sought by those in need of relief and divine intercession. Another notable gift was bilocation, or the ability to be in two places at once. There are records of people witnessing his presence simultaneously in different locations, a sign of his deep communion with the supernatural. Philip also experienced levitation during his moments of mystical ecstasy, rising from the ground while praying intensely. These phenomena were interpreted as manifestations of the spiritual union he maintained with God. In addition, he had the uncommon ability to sense purity or sin through smells. According to reports, Philip could perceive a person's spiritual state by the odor they emitted. This spiritual gift revealed an extreme sensitivity to good and evil, allowing him to assist the faithful more profoundly during confessions and personal encounters. These miracles helped solidify his reputation for holiness and were an expression of his intense life of prayer and charity. 4. Relationship with the nobility. Saint Philip Neri had a deep and significant relationship with the nobility and high leaders of the Church of his time. Despite living a simple and unadorned life, his wisdom, holiness, and charisma attracted the attention of members of the aristocracy and important ecclesiastical figures. Among his followers were cardinals, bishops, and even the Pope. He served as a spiritual advisor to many of these leaders, offering guidance not only on religious matters but also on moral and ethical decisions. Philip influenced these individuals with his humble spirit and deep love for God, always emphasizing the importance of simplicity and charity. Philip's relationship with the nobility was not characterized by seeking favors or privileges but by the desire to transform the hearts of those in positions of power. He believed that true Christian faith should be reflected in actions and attitudes, regardless of social status. Through his influence, Saint Philip helped promote spiritual changes within the Church and society, maintaining a stance always faithful to his mission of reforming people's hearts, not through imposition but through the example of Christian love and joy. 3. Work with the poor. Saint Philip Neri dedicated much of his life to serving the poor and needy in Rome, notably through the foundation of the Confraternity of the Holy Trinity. This organization was created with the aim of providing both spiritual and material support to poor pilgrims and the sick who were experiencing difficulties. The Confraternity of the Holy Trinity aimed to assist the many pilgrims arriving in Rome seeking help and spiritual guidance, as well as to support patients who had been discharged from hospitals but were still weak and unable to work. Philip Neri and his collaborators dedicated themselves to attending to these people, providing them with food, shelter, and medical care when necessary. The work of the confraternity reflected Philip's profound compassion and commitment to alleviating the suffering of those in need. In addition to providing material assistance, the confraternity also offered spiritual comfort, helping the poor and sick to find hope and strength in their faith. Philip Neri's charitable work not only provided immediate relief to many but also served as an example of how true spirituality can manifest through service to others. 2. Incorrupt. Saint Philip Neri passed away on May 26, 1595, in Rome, at the age of 80. His death occurred on the feast of Corpus Christi, a detail many consider significant due to his profound love and devotion to the Eucharist. After his death, Saint Philip's body was buried in the church of the Oratory, the congregation he founded. Upon later examination, his body was found to be incorrupt, a phenomenon that many regard as a sign of his sanctity. Incorruptibility is often seen as a miracle confirming a person's holiness and as a sign that their life and virtue have been accepted by God. Philip Neri's body was exhumed several times over the years, and on each occasion, it was found to be in remarkable preservation, with no signs of decomposition. This fact impressed both the faithful and ecclesiastical authorities, reinforcing his reputation as a truly devout saint. The preservation of Philip's body not only highlighted the Church's recognition of his sanctity but also served as a powerful testimony to his life of virtue and spiritual dedication. His body has been displayed on various occasions for the veneration of the faithful. 1. Canonization and Feast Day. Saint Philip Neri was canonized on March 12, 1622, by Pope Gregory XV. His canonization took place alongside other important saints such as Saint Ignatius of Loyola, Saint Francis Xavier, Saint Teresa of Avila, and Saint Isidore. Saint Philip Neri's feast day is celebrated on May 26, the anniversary of his death, in honor of his life dedicated to joy, simplicity, and service to others. We've come to the end of another story full of interesting details. Don't forget to leave a comment about which saint's curiosities you would like to see featured on the channel. See you in the next story.